The black warships moved through space like hungry wolves. Commander Vexithor stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the enemy ships ahead. His insect-like eyes studied the screens with satisfaction. 15 coalition vessels waited in front of them, and he had 30 warships. The numbers were clear. This would be an easy victory. Pathetic, Vexithor said, his voice clicking through his mandibles. They send so few ships to fight us. The Krell had been winning this war for months. Every battle went the same way. They had more ships, better weapons, and stronger armor. The coalition kept losing, and the Krell kept taking more territory. It was only a matter of time before they conquered everything. Captain Lisa Morgan sat in her command chair on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. She gripped the armrests tight as she watched 30 enemy ships approach her small fleet. Her heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. She had to stay strong for her crew. All ships stay in formation, Lisa said into the communication system. We must hold this line. Epsilon Station has 2,000 people trying to escape. They need more time. Lieutenant Jacob Hayes worked at his station, his fingers moving across the controls. He looked up at Lisa with worry in his eyes. Captain, the evacuation needs 40 more minutes. We cannot last 10 minutes against those numbers. Lisa knew he was right. She had studied the reports from other battles. The Krell always won. They had too many ships and their weapons were too strong. Humanity had joined the coalition only 2 years ago, hoping to find safety with other alien races. Instead, they found themselves fighting a war they could not win. We will make those 10 minutes count, Lisa said. Her voice was firm, even though fear twisted in her stomach. The other coalition captains reported in one by one. Each voice carried the weight of knowing they would probably die today. Captain Thorin was a Velkari, one of the fish-like people from the water world of Velkar. His voice bubbled through the speaker. Commander Xiphus was a Lithian made of living crystal. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. 9 other captains also checked in, all preparing for their last fight. Krell ships will be in weapon range in 30 seconds, Jacob said. Lisa took a deep breath. The air in the bridge felt heavy. She looked at each member of her crew. They were all young, most of them barely out of training. They deserved to live long lives, not die here in the darkness of space. All ships get ready to fight, Lisa ordered. Focus your weapons on their lead ships. Make every shot matter. The Krell fired first. Red energy beams shot through space, crossing the distance in seconds. They slammed into the coalition shields with terrible force. The Valiant Dawn shook violently, throwing crew members against their stations. Lights flickered and alarms started screaming. Shields down to 60%, Lieutenant Amy Chen shouted from her station. She was the chief engineer, responsible for keeping the ship running during battle. The coalition ships fired back. Their combined weapons managed to destroy one Krell destroyer. The enemy ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris, but it was just one ship against 30. The Krell kept coming, their formation tightening like a fist closing around prey. Hull breach on deck 7, Amy called out over the sound of alarms. Damage control teams are going there now. Another wave of enemy fire hit them. The ship rocked again, harder this time. On the main view screen, Lisa watched one of the coalition frigates explode. The small ship was torn apart by concentrated Krell fire, pieces of it spinning away into space. She had known the captain of that ship. They had trained together 3 years ago. 14 ships left now. How much time does the evacuation need? Lisa asked, even though she already knew the answer would be bad. 32 minutes, Jacob replied. His voice shook slightly. They would not make it. Lisa knew this with absolute certainty. Simple math told the story. The Krell were destroying one coalition ship every minute or two. At this rate, the entire fleet would be gone in less than 20 minutes. But they would fight for every second. Those civilians needed time to escape. Another coalition ship took heavy damage. Lisa could see it on her tactical display. The ship's icon flashing red as systems failed. 2 more Krell vessels moved in to finish it off. All ships concentrate fire on the enemies attacking the Starlight Runner, Lisa commanded. Cover them. The coalition fleet tried to help, but they were spread too thin. They had to defend too much space with too few ships. The Krell were everywhere, their red energy beams cutting through shields and armor like knives through paper. On his flagship, Commander Vexithor watched the battle with cold satisfaction. The coalition ships were trying to be brave, but bravery meant nothing against superior force. Another enemy vessel exploded on his view screen. Continue the attack, Vexthor ordered. Destroy them all. His crew clicked their mandibles in agreement. This was what they were born to do. The Krell were warriors bred for conquest. These coalition races were weak, divided. They could never stand against the might of the Krell Empire. Lord Commander, we are detecting something strange, his sensor officer said suddenly. There is an anomaly in Sector 7 Alpha. Vexthor looked at the sensor display. There was indeed something there, a shimmer in space that the sensors could barely detect. It looked like a distortion, a ripple in the fabric of space itself. What is it? Vexthor demanded. Unknown, Lord Commander. It could be a sensor error or radiation from the destroyed ship. Vexthor clicked his mandibles in dismissal. Ignore it. Focus all weapons on their command ship. I want Captain Morgan's vessel destroyed. But the anomaly grew stronger. The shimmer became more visible, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then it became a ripple, like water disturbed by something moving beneath the surface. On the Valiant Dawn, Jacob suddenly looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting a spatial distortion. Something is happening out there. Lisa looked at the view screen. She could see it now, too. A part of space that looked wrong somehow. It was as if reality itself was being bent or twisted. What is that? She asked. I do not know, Captain. The sensors cannot identify it. The distortion grew larger. It spread like a crack in a window, expanding outward. Then in an instant that seemed to last forever, space tore open. A ship appeared. It materialized out of nothing, simply coming into existence where there had been only empty space before. The vessel was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. Its hull was a dark gray color that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship was smaller than the Krell battlecruisers but moved with a grace that spoke of incredible power. Every eye on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn stared at the mysterious ship. It hung in space between them and the Krell fleet, silent and menacing. Please tell me that is one of ours, Lisa whispered. Jacob worked frantically at his station. It is broadcasting a coalition identification code. The ship identifies itself as the USS Liberty. But Captain, there is no USS Liberty in any fleet records, and the power readings from that ship are impossible. No vessel that size should be able to generate that much energy. The mystery ship opened a communication channel. A man's face appeared on the view screen. He was human, perhaps 40 years old, with gray eyes and a short beard. He wore a uniform similar to Coalition style but different in small ways. Coalition forces, this is Captain Daniel Price of the USS Liberty, the man said. His voice was calm and confident. We are taking command of this battle. Pull your ships back to defend the station. Lisa felt her mouth fall open in surprise. Captain Price, where did you come from? What kind of ship is that? The man on the screen looked directly at her. His gray eyes were hard but not unkind. Explanations can wait, Captain Morgan. Right now you need to move your people to safety. Trust me. There was something in his voice that made Lisa want to believe him, a certainty that said he knew exactly what he was doing. Lisa made her decision in a heartbeat. All Coalition ships fall back to station defense positions. Follow the Liberty's lead. The Coalition vessels broke formation and started moving back toward Epsilon Station. The Krell fleet, seeing their prey trying to escape, surged forward to chase them down. That was when the Liberty opened fire. Katie Sullivan stepped forward and activated the holographic display in the center of the room. The map showed the entire Krell Empire with various points marked in red. Admiral Carter, the Liberty alone cannot win the war. You are correct about that, Katie said. But we can cut off the head of the snake. Look at these targets. She highlighted each location on the map as she spoke. 17 major shipyards where the Krell build their warships. 23 primary supply depots that keep their fleet operational. And here, their central command station that coordinates all military operations across their empire. The Coalition officers leaned forward to study the display more carefully. The targets were spread across Krell territory, but they formed a pattern. Everything connected back to the command station at the center. If we destroy these installations, the Krell lose their ability to build new ships and supply existing ones, Katie continued. Their fleet will be cut off from support. Their commanders will lose coordination. The Empire will be paralyzed. A Lythian commander, her crystalline body reflecting the light from the hologram, spoke up. Her voice chimed like glass bells. This is a very ambitious plan. Even with your advanced technology, penetrating that deep into Krell space would be nearly impossible. They will have heavy defenses around all these targets. Daniel nodded. You are absolutely right. That is why we cannot do this alone. We need the Coalition's help. Admiral Carter crossed his arms. What kind of help? The Coalition must launch the largest offensive of the war along the entire border, Daniel explained. Hit them everywhere at once. Make them think you are trying to push them back on all fronts. Force them to commit their fleet to defending the border territories, he pointed to the map. While the Krell are busy fighting your offensive, the Liberty will use her cloaking system to slip past their defenses. We will strike at these key installations one by one. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late. Captain Thorin studied the plan carefully. His gills fluttered as he thought. You are asking us to commit every ship we have to what might just be a diversion. If your mission fails, Captain Price, we will have left our colonies completely defenseless. The Krell could sweep in and take everything. The room fell silent. Everyone knew Thorin was right. This plan required the Coalition to bet everything on one roll of the dice. If the Liberty failed, the war would be lost. Daniel looked around at all the faces watching him. He saw doubt, fear, and anger. These people had been fighting a losing war for years. They had watched their worlds burn and their people die. Now he was asking them to trust a stranger from a planet they thought had abandoned them. I know what I am asking, Daniel said quietly. I know the risk. But let me ask you this. What happens if we do nothing? No one answered. The Krell will keep pushing forward, Daniel continued. They will take more systems, kill more people, destroy more colonies. In 1 year, maybe 2, the Coalition will collapse. You all know this is true. Admiral Carter's face was grim. He had seen the projections. He knew how the war was going. You are right, Captain Price, we are losing. The question is whether your plan gives us a real chance or if it just means we lose everything faster. I cannot give you a guarantee, Daniel said honestly. All I can tell you is that my crew and I have been fighting the Krell for 6 weeks. We have destroyed dozens of their ships and installations. We know how they operate. We know their weaknesses, and we have the technology to exploit those weaknesses. He paused, then continued. My wife's name was Jennifer. My daughter was called Sophie. She was 8 years old and loved to draw pictures of stars. They died on New Perth. I could not save them, but I can try to save everyone else. That is why I am here. The room was very quiet. Many of the people there had similar stories. They had all lost someone to this war. Admiral Carter looked at Daniel for a long moment. Then he looked at Lisa. Captain Morgan, you have spent time with Captain Price and his crew. You have seen their ship. What do you think? Should we trust them? Lisa stood up. Admiral, I saw what the Liberty did at Epsilon Station. One ship destroyed 30 Krell warships in 7 minutes. I have walked through that vessel. I have seen technology that is decades ahead of anything we have. If Captain Price says he can strike at the heart of the Krell Empire, I believe him. That is a lot of faith to put in someone we just met, another human officer said. Yes, sir, it is, Lisa agreed. But what choice do we have? Captain Price is right. If we keep fighting the way we have been, we will lose. This plan is risky, but it gives us a chance. A real chance to end this war. Admiral Carter was silent for a long time. Everyone in the room waited to hear what he would decide. Finally, he spoke. Captain Price, if we agree to this plan, I have one condition. You will take a Coalition observer with you on your mission. Someone to witness what happens and report back on Earth's capabilities. Daniel nodded. That is reasonable. Good. Admiral Carter looked at Lisa. Captain Morgan, you seem to have gained Captain Price's trust. Are you willing to go on this mission? Lisa felt her heart jump. She had not expected this. But she did not hesitate. Yes, Admiral. I am willing. Then it is settled, Admiral Carter said. He looked around the room at all the Coalition representatives. We have 2 weeks to prepare. Every available ship will be assigned to the border offensive. Make your plans. Inform your crews. This is our chance to turn the tide of this war. Let us not waste it. The meeting ended and everyone began preparing for what would be the largest military operation the Coalition had ever attempted. Ships from dozens of worlds began moving toward the border, gathering into strike groups. Supply lines were established. Battle plans were drawn up and revised and drawn up again. Lisa spent those 2 weeks splitting her time between the Valiant Dawn and the Liberty. She needed to prepare her own ship and crew for the offensive, but she also needed to familiarize herself with the Liberty and its operations. The more time she spent on the advanced ship, the more impressed she became. Every system was elegant and efficient. The crew worked together with practiced ease, clearly experienced and well-trained. They were professional military personnel, not rebels or pirates. Daniel gave Lisa a tour of the entire ship. He showed her the cloaking system that bent light and sensor waves around the hull. He demonstrated the quantum tunneling drive that allowed instant repositioning in space. He even let her see the weapons bay where the kinetic implosion warheads were stored and loaded. "These weapons are terrifying," Lisa said, as she looked at the spheres in their storage racks. They looked harmless, just smooth metallic balls about the size of her head. But she had seen what they could do. "Yes, they are," Daniel agreed. "War is always terrible, Captain Morgan. These weapons just make it more efficient. Do you have regrets?" Lisa asked. "About stealing this ship and coming here?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "I have many regrets. I regret that Earth did not help sooner. I regret that I could not save my family. I regret every life lost in this war. But I do not regret coming here. This is where I need to be." Katie Sullivan found them in the weapons bay. "Captain, we have received word from Admiral Carter. The offensive will begin in 48 hours. All coalition forces are in position." Daniel nodded. "Then we should make our final preparations. Captain Morgan, I suggest you say your goodbyes to your crew. We will be departing soon." Lisa returned to the Valiant Dawn one last time. She gathered her senior officers in her ready room and told them what was about to happen. "I'm going on a deep penetration mission with the Liberty," she explained. "Lieutenant Hayes, you will take command of the Valiant Dawn during the offensive. Follow Admiral Carter's orders and keep the crew safe." Jacob looked worried. "Captain, this mission sounds incredibly dangerous." "It is," Lisa admitted. "But it needs to be done. If we succeed, this war could be over. That is worth the risk." She said goodbye to each member of her crew personally. Some of them she had served with for years. They were more than just crew members. They were friends and family. Finally, it was time to go. Lisa took one last look around her ship, the Valiant Dawn that had been her home for 3 years. Then she picked up her bag and headed to the shuttle bay. The journey to the Liberty was short. As Lisa's shuttle docked with the advanced vessel, she felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She was about to embark on the most dangerous mission of her life. Daniel met her at the airlock. "Welcome back, Captain Morgan. Your quarters are ready. We depart in 1 hour." Lisa followed him through the corridors to a small but comfortable cabin. She put her bag down and sat on the bed for a moment, trying to calm her nerves. 1 hour later, the Liberty's engines powered up. The ship moved away from the Coalition fleet gathering point, heading out into empty space. Once they were clear of other vessels, the cloaking system engaged. On every sensor screen in the area, the Liberty simply vanished from existence. The mission had begun. The Coalition offensive began exactly on schedule. Over 300 ships, the largest force the Coalition had ever assembled, struck at Krell positions across a dozen sectors simultaneously. The attacks came from every direction at once, overwhelming the Krell defensive positions. The Krell Empire, caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression, scrambled to respond. Ships were pulled from patrol routes and reserve positions. Commanders shouted orders across communication channels. The entire border region erupted into chaos as battle after battle began. Meanwhile, far from the fighting, the Liberty moved silently through space like a ghost. The ship's cloaking system made it invisible to every sensor the Krell possessed. They slipped past patrol groups through defended systems, deeper and deeper into enemy territory. Lisa stood on the Liberty's bridge, watching the display screens that showed their position relative to Krell space. They had been traveling for 4 days now, using a combination of their faster-than-light drive and careful navigation to avoid detection. "We are approaching the first target," Katie announced from her station. The shipyard at Krell Prime Station. Daniel studied the tactical display. The shipyard was enormous, a massive orbital facility capable of building a dozen warships at once. Around it floated 50 defensive ships along with weapon platforms and sensor stations. "How do we get past all those defenses?" Lisa asked. Daniel smiled. "We do not go around them. We go through them." He gave orders to the crew. The Liberty accelerated directly toward the station. Alarms began sounding on Krell ships as their sensors detected something approaching. But the cloaking system prevented them from getting a clear reading on what it was. The Liberty used her quantum tunneling drive. The ship disappeared from one point in space and reappeared inside the defensive perimeter. Only a few kilometers from the shipyard itself. "All weapons, fire," Daniel ordered calmly. The kinetic implosion warheads launched in rapid succession. They struck the shipyard at critical structural points. The massive station began to collapse inward, huge sections crumpling like paper. Explosions rippled through the facility as reactors overloaded and fuel stores ignited. "Quantum tunnel? Now," Daniel said. The Liberty vanished again just as the Krell defensive ships realized what was happening and began firing. The weapons fire passed through empty space where the Liberty had been moments before. 20 light-years away, the Liberty reappeared and began calculating coordinates for the next target. "Target destroyed," Katie reported. "Moving to Target 2. Over the next 72 hours, the Liberty conducted a campaign of destruction that military historians would study for generations. The ship moved through Krell space like a deadly phantom, appearing without warning to strike at critical installations. Shipyard after shipyard was reduced to twisted wreckage. Supply depots that stored fuel, ammunition, and spare parts for hundreds of ships exploded in massive fireballs. Communication stations that coordinated fleet movements went silent. Lisa watched it all from the bridge, amazed by the precision and efficiency of the Liberty's crew. They worked together like a well-oiled machine, each person knowing exactly what to do without needing to be told. After destroying the 17th shipyard, Daniel gathered the crew for a briefing. "We have hit every target on our list except one, the Central Command Station. This will be the most dangerous part of the mission." He brought up a display showing a massive space station, easily 5 times larger than any of the shipyards they had destroyed. It was surrounded by over 100 warships and countless weapon platforms. "The Krell High Command operates from this station," Katie explained. "All strategic decisions, fleet coordination, and military planning happen here. If we destroy it, the Krell military will be paralyzed." "That is a lot of defenses," Lisa observed. "Can we get through?" "We will have to," Daniel said. "Without destroying the command station, everything else we have done will only slow the Krell down temporarily. We need to cut off the head of the snake." The Liberty approached the command station carefully. Even with their cloaking, the concentration of sensors around the facility was enormous. One mistake, one slight fluctuation in the cloak, and they would be detected. "Bring us in slowly," Daniel ordered. "Let us not give them any reason to suspect we are here." The ship crept forward at minimal speed. Lisa could feel the tension on the bridge. Everyone knew this was the critical moment. If they failed here, the entire mission would have been for nothing. They passed through the outer defensive perimeter without being detected, then the middle ring of defenses. Finally, they were close enough to the command station to strike. "All weapons ready," Katie reported. "We have firing solutions on all critical targets." Daniel took a deep breath. "Fire." The Liberty unleashed every weapon she had. Dozens of kinetic implosion warheads flew from the ship's weapons bays, each one targeted at a specific point on the command station. The warheads struck home within seconds of each other. The effect was catastrophic. The command station began tearing itself apart from multiple points simultaneously. Huge sections of the structure collapsed inward. Secondary explosions rippled outward as power systems overloaded and ammunition stores detonated. Thousands of Krell military personnel died in moments as the heart of their empire's military command disintegrated. "Quantum tunnel. Maximum range," Daniel ordered. The Liberty disappeared just as the Krell fleet realized they were under attack. The defensive ships fired desperately at where the Liberty had been, but once again they hit only empty space. The ship reappeared on the far edge of the system, already plotting a course back to Coalition space. "All targets destroyed," Katie announced. She allowed herself a small smile. Mission accomplished. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. They had done it. Against all odds, they had struck at the heart of the Krell Empire and crippled their ability to make war. Lisa felt tears on her cheeks, though she had not realized she was crying. So many people had died in this war. Finally, there was hope that it might end. Daniel walked over to her. "Thank you for trusting us, Captain Morgan. Your faith meant a great deal." "You earned that trust," Lisa replied. "Now let us go home and see what we have accomplished." The journey back to Coalition space took 3 days. When they emerged from their final jump, they found the border region in chaos, but it was a very different kind of chaos than before. The Coalition offensive had been successful. Krell forces all along the border were retreating in confusion, without coordination from their command station, without supplies from the destroyed depots, without reinforcements from the destroyed shipyards. The Krell fleet was falling apart. individual Krell commanders, not knowing what to do without orders from high command, or making their own decisions. Some retreated, some tried to hold their positions. A few even began fighting among themselves over what strategy to follow. The coalition forces, seeing their enemy in disarray for the first time in the war, pressed their advantage. They pushed forward, reclaiming systems that had been lost, driving the Krell back. Admiral Carter contacted the Liberty as soon as they entered coalition space. His face on the view screen showed a mixture of disbelief and hope. "Captain Price, please tell me you actually did it," he said. "All primary targets have been destroyed, Admiral," Daniel reported. "The Krell military infrastructure has been crippled. Their high command is gone. They are leaderless and cut off from supplies." Admiral Carter closed his eyes for a moment, and Lisa could see the weight lifting from his shoulders. "You actually did it. You turned the tide of the war." Over the following days, Krell forces continued to retreat. Coalition intelligence reported complete chaos in the Krell Empire. Without their command structure, different factions within the Empire began arguing about what to do next. Some wanted to continue the war. Others wanted to negotiate peace. A few even considered civil war to determine who should lead next. 6 months after the Liberty's mission, the Krell Empire formally requested peace negotiations. The coalition, from a position of strength for the first time in years, dictated harsh terms. The Krell would withdraw from all occupied systems. They would pay reparations for the damage they had caused. They would submit to coalition monitoring to ensure they never rebuilt their military to threatening levels. The Krell, broken and leaderless, agreed to everything. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching as the peace treaty was signed via long-range transmission. It was over. After 10 years of war, after millions of deaths, it was finally over. Daniel stood beside her. "So what will you do now?" she asked him. "That is an interesting question," Daniel replied. "Earth has officially declared me and my crew to be criminals. We are wanted for theft of military property. So I suppose we cannot go home. Will Earth make contact with the coalition now? I have heard rumors that diplomats are being prepared. My mission seems to have forced their hand. They cannot maintain their non-interference policy anymore, not after what we did. But politics moves slowly. It may be years before official relations are established." Lisa looked at him. "You sacrificed everything for this. Your career, your home, your future. Was it worth it?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and this time it was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Yes, Captain Morgan, it was worth it." The weapons that came from the Liberty were unlike anything anyone had seen before. They were not energy beams or missiles. Instead, small spheres of contained energy launched from the ship's weapons ports. They moved through space incredibly fast, weaving and turning like living creatures. The first sphere hit a Krell destroyer right in the center. What happened next made everyone watching gasp in shock. The enemy ship did not explode normally. Instead, it seemed to collapse inward on itself. The hull crumpled like paper being crushed in a giant hand. Then the entire ship broke apart into tiny pieces that scattered in all directions. "By all the gods," Captain Thorin whispered over the communication channel. His voice was filled with awe and disbelief. The Liberty began to move, and it moved in ways that should have been impossible. The ship accelerated without any visible thrust from engines. It turned at sharp angles that should have torn it apart from the forces involved. Most amazing of all, it seemed to dodge the incoming Krell weapons fire as if it knew where every shot would be before the enemy even fired. 6 more energy spheres launched from the Liberty. 6 more Krell ships died, each one crumpling and breaking apart. The mysterious vessel cut through the enemy formation like a hot knife through butter. It moved with deadly grace, never staying in one place long enough for the Krell to target it effectively. On the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Lisa watched with her mouth hanging open. Jacob sat at his station, his hands frozen over the controls as he stared at the view screen. Amy had stopped trying to repair damage and was simply watching the impossible battle unfold. "What is that ship?" Amy breathed. "How is it doing that?" Commander Vexthor stood on his flagship bridge, and for the first time in his military career he felt real fear. His armada was being destroyed by a single vessel. Ships that had survived dozens of battles were being eliminated in seconds. "All ships concentrate fire on that human vessel," Vexthor ordered, his voice high and clicking with panic. "Maximum power to all weapons." 23 Krell warships, all that remained of his mighty fleet, turned their weapons toward the Liberty. They fired as one, creating a massive wave of destructive red energy. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. No ship could survive that much concentrated fire. The Liberty disappeared. One moment it was there, clearly visible on every sensor and view screen. The next moment it simply ceased to exist. The massive wave of Krell weapons fire passed through empty space, hitting nothing. Where did it go? Vexthor screamed. His mandibles clicked frantically. Find it! Find that ship now! His sensor officer worked desperately at his console, his many hands moving across the controls. Lord Commander, I am detecting a spatial distortion. It is directly above us. Vexthor looked up at the ceiling of his bridge, though of course he could not see through the hull. Above us? How did it get there? The Liberty reappeared 5 kilometers above the Krell flagship. It had somehow moved through space without traveling the distance between the 2 points. It was as if the ship had simply stopped, existing in one location and started existing in another. The Liberty fired a single energy sphere. The Krell flagship had shields designed to withstand attacks from entire fleets. The shields were rated to handle the impact of multiple nuclear weapons. They were the best protection technology the Krell Empire could build. They lasted exactly 1.5 seconds. The energy sphere punched through the shields as if they were not even there. It struck the flagship's main reactor, the massive power source that fed energy to every system on the ship. Abandon ship, Vexthor shrieked as every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. The flagship started tearing itself apart from the inside. Explosions rippled through the hull as the reactor went critical. Emergency escape pods began launching in all directions, small capsules fleeing the dying ship like rats fleeing a sinking vessel. Vexthor managed to reach an escape pod and launch just before the entire command section exploded. The remaining Krell fleet broke completely. All discipline vanished, replaced by pure terror. Each captain suddenly cared only about saving their own ship and crew. They scattered in different directions, trying desperately to escape the nightmare that had descended upon them. The Liberty pursued them. There was no cruelty in its actions, no rage or anger. It simply eliminated each fleeing vessel with calm mechanical efficiency. The energy spheres flew through space, each one finding its target. Each Krell ship that was hit collapsed and broke apart. Lisa watched the battle end. She checked the time on her display. From the moment the Liberty had opened fire to now, only 7 minutes had passed. 7 minutes to destroy 30 Krell warships. An entire armada wiped out in less time than it took to drink a cup of coffee. Impossible, Jacob whispered beside her. That should be impossible. The Liberty turned and moved toward the coalition formation. It took up a position near them, holding steady in space. Captain Daniel Price's face appeared on their view screens again. Coalition forces, the threat has been eliminated, he said. His voice was as calm as if he had just finished a routine patrol instead of single-handedly destroying an enemy fleet. I am sending you coordinates for a secure location. We need to talk. Captain Morgan, I would appreciate if you would come aboard the Liberty. We have much to discuss. Lisa found her voice, though it took effort. Captain Price, what exactly is your ship? Where did you come from? For the first time, Daniel's serious expression softened slightly. Something that might have been a smile touched his face. We came from Earth, Captain. The real Earth, not the colonies. We have been watching humanity's war against the Krell for some time now. We decided it was time to help. Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. Earth? But Earth was supposed to be gone, or at least unable to help. The generation ships that left Earth over 200 years ago were supposed to be all that remained of humanity. I do not understand, Lisa said. I know you do not, Daniel replied. That is why we need to talk. There is much you do not know about Earth and what has happened there. I promise to explain everything. But first, let us make sure the evacuation from Epsilon Station is completed safely. Then we will talk. The communication ended. Lisa sat back in her chair, her mind spinning. Nothing made sense. The Liberty was clearly far more advanced than any coalition ship. Its weapons were beyond anything she had imagined possible. And Captain Price claimed to be from Earth, the homeworld that everyone thought had been left behind centuries ago. Captain, Jacob said quietly, should we trust them? Lisa looked at the Liberty on the view screen. The mysterious ship floated peacefully in space, its dark hull drinking in the starlight. It had just saved their lives and the lives of 2,000 civilians. But it had also revealed capabilities that changed everything humanity thought they knew. "We do not have much choice," Lisa said finally. "Besides, if they wanted to harm us, they could have let the Krell destroy us." "I think Captain Price is telling the truth. I think we need to hear what he has to say." The evacuation from Epsilon Station continued without any further problems. The remaining Krell forces in the sector retreated as fast as their engines could carry them. Word of what happened spread quickly through both Coalition and Krell communication networks. A single human ship had destroyed an entire Krell armada in 7 minutes. The news caused panic in the Krell Empire and confusion in the Coalition. Questions flew through every communication channel. What was the Liberty? Where had it come from? Did humanity have more ships like it? Had Earth really survived and prospered after the generation ships left? But no answers came. The Liberty remained silent except for its communication with Captain Lisa Morgan. 2 hours after the battle, a shuttle carrying Lisa and 3 of her officers launched from the Valiant Dawn and flew toward the mysterious ship. As the shuttle approached the Liberty, Lisa could see details of the vessel that had not been visible from a distance. The hull was made of some kind of advanced composite material that seemed to shift slightly in color as she looked at it. The ship's lines were sleek and graceful, clearly designed by people who understood both beauty and function. The shuttle docked with the Liberty smoothly. As Lisa and her team stepped through the airlock, she felt a strange tingling sensation wash over her body. It was as if she had passed through some kind of scanning field. Jacob, who was right behind her, jerked slightly. "Did you feel that, Captain?" "Yes," Lisa confirmed quietly. "I think they just scanned us." A woman appeared in the corridor to meet them. She was in her 30s with red hair pulled back tight. She wore a uniform similar to Captain Price's, with rank insignia that Lisa recognized as commander. "Captain Morgan, welcome aboard the Liberty," the woman said with a professional smile. "I am Commander Katie Sullivan, Executive Officer. Captain Price is waiting for you in the briefing room. Please follow me." As they walked through the Liberty's corridors, Lisa could not stop looking around. Everything about the ship was advanced beyond what she knew. The walls seemed to be made of material that had a faint glow to it. The technology visible at various stations looked at least 2 generations ahead of anything on Coalition ships. "Your ship is remarkable," Lisa said to Katie. Katie's smile became more genuine. "Thank you. We are very proud of her." Daniel Price stood at the head of the briefing table and looked at Lisa and her officers. The holographic display behind him showed a vast star map with hundreds of systems marked. "Captain Morgan, what do you know about the Exodus?" Daniel asked. Lisa frowned, confused by the question. "The Exodus? You mean the colony mission from Earth?" "Yes, tell me what your history books say about it." Lisa exchanged glances with Jacob and her other officers. The Exodus happened about 250 years ago. Earth was dying. The planet had used up its resources and the environment was collapsing. Humanity pooled everything they had left to build generation ships. 10 massive vessels, each carrying 50,000 people. They were sent out to find new worlds to live on. She paused, trying to remember her history lessons. Most of the ships failed. Only one, the Horizon, made it to what is now our home in Coalition space. That is where humanity lives now, the descendants of the people from the Horizon. Daniel nodded slowly. "That is what the history books say, yes. But it is not the complete truth." He touched the holographic display and the image changed. Now it showed Earth with defensive satellites and large shipyards orbiting it. All 10 ships did launch, that part is true. But Earth was not as close to death as people thought. Yes, things were bad. Yes, there were problems. But within 50 years after the ships left, humanity solved most of those problems. Within 100 years, Earth had not only recovered but had become more advanced than ever before. Lisa felt her heart start to race. "What are you saying?" Katie Sullivan spoke up from where she stood near the wall. "Earth never forgot about the generation ships. They tracked them as best they could, but communication was impossible at the time. When Earth finally developed faster than light travel about 80 years ago, they began searching for the colony ships." Daniel manipulated the display again. Now it showed the paths of all 10 generation ships. "We found records of what happened to most of them. The Horizon made it safely, as you know. 2 other ships established colonies, but those colonies died out from disease and other problems. The remaining 7 ships were lost to various disasters during the journey." The display shifted to show the current galaxy, with the Krell Empire and the Galactic Coalition marked in different colors. But we also found something else, Daniel continued. We found that our cousins, the descendants of the Horizon, were in terrible danger. They had joined the coalition, hoping to find safety with other races. Instead, they found themselves fighting a war for survival against the Krell Empire. Lisa leaned forward. If Earth knew we were in danger, why did you not help us before now? We have been fighting this war for 10 years. Millions of people have died. Daniel's expression became hard, his jaw tight. Earth has a policy of non-interference in galactic affairs. The government decided that revealing ourselves would change the political balance of this entire region of space. They chose to observe only, not to help. But you are here now, Jacob pointed out. Yes, Daniel said quietly. I am here now. But this is not an official mission from Earth. The Liberty is what you might call a rogue operation. The room went very quiet. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Daniel walked to the window that looked out into space. 3 months ago, the Krell destroyed the colony on New Perth. 15 million people died in a single day. Among those people were my wife and daughter. Lisa felt her breath catch in her throat. She saw the pain in Daniel's eyes as he stared out at the stars. I served in Earth's military for 20 years, Daniel continued. When I learned what happened on New Perth, I went to my commanders. I begged them to authorize a mission to help the coalition. They refused. They said the non-interference policy was more important than saving lives. He turned back to face them. So I made a choice. I took the Liberty, the most advanced stealth ship in Earth's entire fleet. My crew volunteered to come with me. We all have family in coalition space. We all lost people to the Krell, and we all decided that Earth's policy was wrong. You stole a military ship? Amy asked, her eyes wide. Daniel smiled, but there was no humor in it. I prefer to think of it as borrowing without permission. Every member of my crew volunteered knowing what we were doing. We are all criminals now in Earth's eyes, but we could not stand by and watch more people die when we had the power to prevent it. He sat down at the table. Let me tell you about the Liberty. This ship was designed for deep space reconnaissance missions. Her cloaking system can hide her from any sensor technology currently known. Her weapons are kinetic implosion warheads. They generate localized gravity wells that collapse matter at the molecular level. That is why the Krell ships crushed inward when they were hit. Katie pulled up technical displays showing the ship's systems. The Liberty also has a quantum tunneling drive. It allows the ship to move instantly from one point to another within a limited range. That is how we appeared above the Krell flagship during the battle. Lisa tried to process all of this information. It was overwhelming. Earth had survived. Earth had advanced far beyond what the colonies had achieved. And now this ship and its crew had come to fight a war that their own government would not. How long have you been operating in this region? Lisa asked. 6 weeks, Daniel replied. We have been hitting Krell targets behind their lines. Supply depots, command ships, communication stations. We have been trying to slow down their advance and buy time for the coalition. But today you revealed yourselves, Lisa said. That changes everything. Yes, it does. And that is why we need to talk about what comes next. Daniel brought up a new display showing Krell territory. Various locations were marked in red. We have spent these 6 weeks gathering intelligence on the Krell Empire. We know where their shipyards are. We know where they store supplies. Most importantly, we know where their central command station is located. He looked at each person in the room. The Krell Empire is vast, but it relies on a relatively small number of key installations. If we can destroy those installations, we can cripple their ability to make war. You want to strike at the heart of their empire, Jacob said slowly. Exactly. But the Liberty cannot do it alone. We need the coalition to launch a major offensive along the border. Draw as many Krell ships away from their core territory as possible. While they are busy fighting on multiple fronts, the Liberty will penetrate deep into their space and destroy their command and control structure. Katie stepped forward. We have identified 17 major shipyards, 23 primary supply depots, and the central command station. If we eliminate these targets, the Krell war machine will grind to a halt. Lisa studied the display carefully. The plan was audacious, perhaps even crazy. But it might work. The Krell had been winning because they had more ships and better logistics. If the Liberty could cut off their ability to build new ships and supply existing ones, the balance would shift dramatically. This is an extremely risky plan, Lisa said. If you fail, the coalition will have committed all its forces to a diversion, leaving our colonies defenseless. Daniel nodded. I know, But if we do nothing, you will lose those colonies anyway. The Krell are winning this war, Captain Morgan. You know it, I know it, everyone in the coalition knows it. This plan gives us a chance to turn the tide. Lisa thought about all the battles she had fought in the past 2 years. All the ships lost, all the people dead. She thought about the evacuation at Epsilon Station, how close they had come to losing 2,000 more lives. She thought about New Perth and the 15 million people who died there. What will Earth do if we succeed? She asked. Will they finally make contact with the coalition officially? I honestly do not know, Daniel admitted. Politics is complicated. Earth's government may continue their non-interference policy even after this. Or they may decide that the situation has changed enough to warrant contact. I cannot predict what they will do. But you are willing to risk everything on this mission anyway. Yes, because it is the right thing to do. Lisa made her decision. We will need to present this plan to the coalition leadership. They will want to meet you and verify everything you have told us. I expected as much, Daniel said. We can arrange a meeting at a secure location. 3 days later, a secret conference was held at a coalition military facility. The station's main briefing room was filled with high-ranking officers and officials from a dozen different races. Admiral Frank Carter, the commander of all human forces in coalition space, sat at the head of the table. Admiral Carter was an older man with silver hair and a face lined by years of stress and loss. He had fought in this war since it began 10 years ago. He had seen hundreds of ships destroyed and thousands of people killed. He listened carefully as Daniel explained the situation and presented his plan. When Daniel finished, the room erupted in angry voices. A Velkari admiral slammed his webbed hand on the table. My people have lost 3 entire worlds to the Krell. Billions of our people are dead. And Earth had the power to help us all this time but chose not to. Captain Thorin, who had survived the battle at Epsilon Station, spoke more calmly but with anger in his voice. Why should we trust you now? Why help us at all if your policy is non-interference? Daniel stood and faced them all. You are right to be angry. Earth's policy is wrong. It is cowardly.